I'll tell you this, no eternal reward will forgive us now for wasting the dawn. Back in those days, everything was simpler and more confused. One summer night, going to the pier, I ran into two young girls. The blonde one was called Freedom, the dark one, Enterprise. We talked, and they told me this story. Now listen to this. I'll tell you about Texas radio and the big beat, soft driven, slow and mad like some new language, reaching your head with the cold, sudden fury of a divine messenger. Let me tell you about heartache and the loss of God, wandering in hopeless night. Out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate. Water Sign Collective. I have quite the download coming in for you, and we're going to take it in layers. So I hope you'll ride this one out for me. And certainly, this is a significant download for the collective as a whole, no matter your sign, right? We all hold these energies, but we do have really important transits going on that affect all of us, and they're going down in the water signs. First of all, we have the first full moon that is an initiatory gateway coming in January on Monday the 13th of 2025, and Cancer is hosting that moon. It's the cap off point of this current lunar cycle that we're moving through that was just ushered in with the Capricorn black moon. And so this is quite juicy in and of itself. There's a lot coming through here that will set the tone for the journey that unfolds in the year ahead. We then also have Saturn, Capricorn's ruler, also traditionally the ruler of Aquarius, okay, that will be in Pisces in tandem with Pluto in Aquarius. And so this is an energy we're moving through for the long haul here. Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, right? So this is some pretty juicy energy, you could say. It's juicy in the best way, in that there's a lot of mystery to unravel here, and mystery that provides empowerment. I got big initiation coming in for the water elemental collective. And so I want to really dive into this energy and first sort of talk about the cards here and how you can work with them as you're moving through this cycle. Also, we need to unravel a mystery in relation to these cards, because there is a lot of confusion about the assigned traditional meanings. Now, remember, as I was talking in the read that came in for the air signs, there is always room for exploration, reinvention, and we are working with that energy. So traditionalists will tell you there's only one way to really work with the tarot, that they only have this one set meaning, but that's not really true, because when we're working with archetypal imagery, it's just merely an energy signature. It speaks to each of us in different ways. But I want to speak first through the sort of traditional lens, so I can have you journey with the card that is traditionally assigned to you, so you can just see what it has to teach you. And the reason why I say that is it might offer you a new perspective, because traditionally may be very different from how you've seen yourself, at least through the lens of the major arcana of the tarot. So first, let's begin here with the moon, since that moon is such an important kickoff point with the new year. It is a gateway of initiation. And this card here, you will often hear people refer to it as Cancer, okay? And is that wrong? I mean, Cancer is ruled by the moon, so this would be a very natural sort of estimation of the energy signature of this card. We also see a little bit of reference here to Scorpio, a little nod. But what's funny is this card actually represents traditionally Pisces alone, even though there's the symbolism here of the other water elementals, it's Pisces. And yet, where is the symbolism that's coming in for Pisces? Well, some would say that it could be coming through in the two pillars that represent a gateway of initiation that we see here in the High Priestess. You'll hear most people refer to the High Priestess as being Pisces. And actually, it's not Pisces at all. Traditionally, the High Priestess is associated with Cancer because of its deep, intimate connection with the moon, Cancer's ruler. And yet, there's something here to explore. Certainly, what does the High Priestess do? The High Priestess draws down the moon. So I do feel with that full moon that is coming in on January 13th, that full moon in Cancer, there's almost like a reclaiming of the mystery as it speaks through you, without getting attached to sort of identification of who you have to be or what sign you have to be in order to hold this energy of the High Priestess or of the one who has access to hidden knowledge. I mean, I have a little take here to sort of spin this on its head, I have to say. But I do recommend that Pisces, journey with the moon. Carry this card with you, study it, let it reveal more layers of its mystery to you so you can come to understand what's coming through here, what it's speaking of to you, all right? We'll dive into this more with the download, but I just want to open with that right there, okay? And then the High Priestess here. It's funny because I see Scorpio in the High Priestess too. I see Scorpio in the sense that we have the pomegranate here. And the pomegranate is very much a symbol that's associated with quite a few tales, I have to say, throughout history, throughout mythos. You will see the pomegranate come through. The pomegranate is actually the fruit, the forbidden fruit that Lilith gorged herself on while sitting by the side of the Euphrates River, which gave her the power to transform. She was able to take on other forms. She was able to shapeshift. She took on the quality of the snake. She had self-knowledge that was activated in her, or one could say hidden knowledge. So I see reference here to Scorpio in the High Priestess. And I see reference to Cancer with the High Priestess, with its association of the moon, right? But I also see those two pillars of initiation, which bring us into what? The moon's mysteries, okay? So the High Priestess, Cancer, this is the card that you will carry with you over the next 72 hours. Just let it reveal a little bit more of that juicy mystery to you. Let it awaken more in the area of your self-knowledge. There's much to learn here, much to be shared here that will help you resolve a particular riddle. And this is that duality energy. Do you see that? Isn't that interesting? Do you see the duality? There's a center way through. Illumination will come in regard to this, but there's some kind of mystery you have to solve. You have to crack a certain code to provide your vehicle forward. But see, you're not holding the reins here. Your chariot is moving forward by divine will as you enter the mystery. And I don't know why I got this imagery, but it's making me think of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and the part where they're entering that waterway, entering that tunnel, and they don't know where we're going, right? They have no way of where they're going to end up having any sort of sense of coordinates coming through for them. It feels a little bit uncertain. It feels like they're moving through the dark. At times it can be a little fearful as they enter that territory, and yet they're being led. They're being led somewhere on this journey into the mystery, all right? And that brings me to this piece here about Scorpio, okay? You will work with your card Death, because death is a gateway of transformation. So that again brings the dualism here, right? With the High Priestess, the gateway of transformation. When Persephone ate the pomegranate seeds, she journeyed down into the underworld to integrate her shadow so she could rise again, so she could rise and bring forward all the growth and all the verdancy and splendor that she learned in her time in the dark. It's like a great revealing energy here. So in truth, all of the water elementals are held within the High Priestess, but it's just kind of been assigned the role of Cancer because of its association with the moon. And yet it's a waterway. It's a waterway. So all of us should tap into where we have water in our charts at this time, because it can reveal a lot to us, so much about the way through, about the way through. There's a lot of mutability to this energy. This is energy you can't grasp. It will just run right through your hands. So there's something here about really letting go and giving over to the process. And the ultimate letting go is found through the 8th house. That's when we do enter the mystery. That's when we do enter that place of unknown territory. That's when we do head deeply into the subconscious terrain, and we reach down into that deep well of darkness, and what we draw up from that and bring into the light is something that provides a waterway. It provides a way through. It provides a way forward. There's Cancer's energy again. So sit with these energies. And being water signs, I mean, you may want to work with all of them. You may want to work with all of these cards and, you know, do whatever speaks to you here. But for the purpose of this little exercise, I encourage you to work with the card that you feel most resonant with as far as your zodiac archetype. All right. So if you really identify with being a Pisces, work with the Moon card. If you really identify with being a Scorpio, work with the Death card. And if you identify strongly with Cancer, work with the High Priestess, okay? And you will find a certain way through. 1311 on the clock. It's a way through to empowerment, to aligning with your power, to attuning with your power, all right? So now let's get back to this opener here, which of course was courtesy of Jim Morrison, that Stoned Immaculate. Stoned Immaculate was a poem that was featured on his album. I believe it came in on An American Prayer, I believe. And let's look at the word immaculate. What does immaculate mean? Well, we know immaculate can mean very neat, very tidy, very orderly. And I do feel like this is also like the death of that, the relinquishing of what you've tried to keep in some sense of order, or you've tried to keep really tidy, just sort of not wanting the more sort of messy bits to be seen. And yet there's something about this that is completely being stripped away. There is a need to be in that place of more the wild nature, the explorative nature. And that full moon that's coming in Cancer that will arrive on the 13th is the wolf moon. So isn't that interesting? There's still sort of like that correlation with Pisces, even within that, because Pisces is associated with the wolf on the medicine wheel. So it's a pathfinder. It's a pathfinder initiation. But in order to gain the medicine of the pathfinder, you first have to enter the portal of the great void. You have to enter the mystery. And in order to enter the mystery, you're going to have to get messy. You're not going to have control. You're going to feel like you're having everything taken out of your hands. That's what it means to go through an initiation. And there is this piece here that in order to hold certain wisdom, in order to be able to have access to certain mysteries, one must relinquish control and must go through an initiatory gateway in order to experience the kind of sacrifice that comes when one feels exiled, when one feels lost, when one feels like a wanderer, when they don't know where they belong or where their home is. There's a need to get lost out there without any guiding light. But we know the star will return. We know the star will return because Pluto is in Aquarius. Scorpio's ruler is in Aquarius. So you can really view this as a stripping away of everything that has been too contained. It's actually been holding back your power. It's been holding back your magic, the magic that wants to come through for you at this time. And through this process, there will be a cleansing. There will be a returning to the realization of your purity. And when I say purity, I mean your pure essence, who you truly are at your core. This is also a meaning of immaculate. It means purity. It means simplicity. It means what we are when you strip away all of the trappings, when you strip away the facade and you get back to the essential nature. Immaculate is completely free of flaw or any concept of mistake because it's complete in and of itself. And in its imperfections, it's inherently perfect because everything is in its proper order, even within what seems like it's coming undone, even within what is unraveling. When we look at it through more of a Roman Catholic lens, immaculate means to be free of sin, to be absolved of sin. And so I was really sitting with these energies and was thinking about it. And the first thing I heard was throwing stones when living in a glass house. Throwing stones when living in a glass house. And so that made me think of something being shattered here. It could have been shattered by another. It could have been shattered by another, or it could have been shattered by you. There was some rocks thrown in a situation and some hiding of hands that shattered a certain glass house. But what was shattered, what was brought down, and that evokes that tower energy. And what came in on the air sign read, right, with Aquarius. Aquarius could be factoring strongly in your situation, or Leo rising is possible. But what came in through that lens was that if you look from the modern perspective of Uranus being Aquarius's planetary ruler, there's a lot of association with the tower, okay? So I feel like this experience, whoever threw the stones and hid their hands, it really doesn't matter. It's kind of irrelevant because it served the purpose of shattering a certain optic, you could say, a certain illusion. And it also provided the key to liberation because now there's nothing hemming one in. But this does require entering the great unknown. Now, looking at this from a more sort of mundane sense, you may have been dealing with a situation where you felt like you were suffering from a lot of judgment, or perhaps you were judging another. And there's an important point of reflection here. And so I wanted to understand more about like what was coming through from this message. And so I said, I think I'm going to consult Jim because that song that it's a song, but it's a poem, really, you know, that's just put to a backdrop of music. Jen's just speaking over it with Stoned Immaculate. And I'll put a link to it in the comments section so you can check it out if you're not familiar with it. So I did a little bibliomancy and I opened it up and I was like, whoa, are we really going to go there, Jim? 2020. Yep, that's the vision in order to give clarity of vision. Okay. I just want to give like a little precursor here that if you are easily offended, you might want to dip out. Okay. He speaks pretty real and raw with this. And there's some kind of points here that might be a little hard to swallow for some. This is what I would say about that. But I'm going to bring them in. All right. I'm going to bring it in because it wants to be brought in. So there is something here too about being mindful of what we take offense to. When we take offense to something, what is it dinging in us? All right. And I'm going to bring it in here because it's important. There's a lot of seeds here for you. What church is that? Church of God. White bandana, white tambourine, walking on the water. In traditional style, we'll give them a good political backsiding, laughter. Victimization. A frog in the road, children in church drums, son, lying like death on the back seat. Revival. A horror house. Lord John and Lady Anne's red-blooded, blue-blooded queen's bosom. Is it the princess? Golden blood, like me, he said, folding the bill again neatly. The queen's ear, a naked cock stuck in her ass. Ha, 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 ha. You're no more innocent than a turkey vulture. Damn, Jim. Turkey vulture. It's quite significant here at BroadCoven because we've been bringing in the turkey vulture with the gateways of initiation. And so there's something here about where one is mired in judgment, where one is mired in the throwing of stones and who threw them and who's at fault, and sort of holding someone accountable for what they feel is a false judgment of who they are. The one also has to kind of like look at oneself. There's a mirroring energy here that's playing out. And so this is what's going to be arrived at, sort of understanding that in whoever you feel like threw hands at you, maybe some of you have been dealing with more of a physical kind of fight. Maybe somebody has been threatening a fight. Maybe somebody's been too aggressive. This piece coming in, there's some pretty, touchy energy coming in around the water sign collective, but it wants to be talked about. So we're creating a space for it here. And what's interesting, though, I have to say about this energy is that there's so much in sort of confronting what we would normally be offended by and viewing it instead as an opportunity to discover something that's acted as a limitation within us that can gain us quite a different perspective than we would normally have before. So pretty dicey energy here. I do want to give an overarching theme on that, just that piece alone, okay? What do we got here? Yeah, oh my goodness, on the split. Bring it into form, you see? There's something here that can only be actualized through walking through that gateway of initiation into the unknown. And it does require death. It does require an ending. So this is pretty wild because When we're looking at butterfly medicine, it is a transformational energy about rebirth. But moth medicine is very similar. It's transmutation of the shadow, though. See, like the moth has to go to the flame. It has to go through that fire test of truth in order to be reborn. And we're getting fire, water coming in here, intermingling with the air as well. This is an alchemical process we're moving through. It's the stages of manifestation and how they speak elementally here. So the eternal cycle begins here through what is relinquished. We know this, to resist what needs to be released. And sometimes it is the death of a perception. It is the death of an illusion. It is the death of identification. And it's entering that place of complete unknown where we can recover what? Well, what I got for you is that your initiation is about recovering your origin story. And there's an interesting message coming in around that too. It's not in the typical sense that you would think about reclaiming your origin story. I mean, certainly this can come through your bloodline in terms of your family lineage, looking at that ancestral tree. That's one aspect here. But it's actually something much more intangible than that. It's actually something that can only be brought through tuning into the Oran More, the great song of ecstasis that ripples throughout all of existence, that gets activated through us, through the musing energy that comes in as the different singers of creation. And so I got a really specific message that came through about the purpose of you sort of tracing this thread back. It will reclaim your origins of your magical lineage, all right? And this is really deep medicine here. You'll be given a certain thread. You could call it a thread of fate that leads you to this place of having to face this gateway of initiation. But you might have sort of stumbled across like a certain kind of empowerment that there needs to be the balancing of the scales in regard to the empowerment you came through. Like you might have come across some kind of knowledge of the great mystery. You might have gained access to some kind of magical secrets, you could say, but there wasn't the initiation preceding it. And so now it's like a moment where you're kind of untying a knot, right? You're untying a knot through retracing the steps to get back to the beginning, because you need to reclaim that particular thread of fate. It's what will weave your destiny. And the process will be empowering. You won't feel anymore like you're sort of in this holding pattern. Instead, you get to creatively work with this thread of fate once you enter that gateway of initiation, and the gifts from the great mystery that it will lead you to and rightfully empower you with, so you can weave them into the cosmic web of creation. Now, as you enter this space, it's really important that you're able to tune into the Oran More, that great song. But I did get this message of a necessity to be aware of the mimicry of the song that comes through the sirens, the siren song, also associated with water element, right? There's a change coming in here, and you have to follow your own rhythm. You can't follow the song of others. You have to recover your origin story. And you can only do that through abandoning what's familiar, moving into unknown territory, being a bit of a wanderer, and tuning into that rhythm, tuning into the Oran More that will guide your steps, the great song that is only found when you face that portal, of the great void and move through any trepidation to walk through. Now is not the time to turn back. Not the time to turn back. Let's get an overarching theme here. It's really deep energy, and there's many layers, and there's still some that is shrouded in mystery about this message, because there's that collective energy that's being held. So all of us on some level are moving through this kind of territory. But see, what it's meant to activate is a legacy of light. You see, it's these spiritual gifts that want to come through. It's through recovering your origin story. And once you do that, you enter into this place of collaborative dreaming. It's a really beautiful energy. It's a journeying kind of energy here. But first, the completion. There has to be the release first. Let me do a cut of the deck here, okay? And then I want to go to the next layer that came in. So this is about scrying. This is about working with your intuition and tapping really deeply into your own soul's voice to guide you forward here. And you will be in that place where there are no stars, right? And that makes me think of the star card in tarot. It is Aquarius's card. In the star, there is a star that one is following. But here, you're not following the star yet, because you have to trace back your origin story. Your origin story. But once you do, there will be no wasting of the dawn. You'll see through the illusion. You'll see through the deception. You'll reclaim the magic. And you'll move into that Sagittarian energy of expansion. And you'll find the light after the darkness. But there's no bypassing the time of being in the dark, of being in the unknown. It's necessary. One cannot gain access to certain knowledge, certain mysteries through reading in books or by word of mouth. There's only one way to truly tap that essence, and that's through entering the void, entering the initiatory process. And some of you may have not entered that initiatory process, and you decided, I want to dive into that mystery. And some of you may have bit off a bit more than you could chew. And then you found yourself in a bit of a conundrum. Well, now it's time to unravel the knot through following its pattern. It's a bit of a labyrinth. If you think of a knot and you think of it as like an energy signature, if you were to follow the knot's energy signature, if you moved into that cycle of devolution, right? Unwinding the spiral, well, then you'll be taken into the center of the void. And there you'll find the origin. Then you'll know how to use that thread of fate to weave in the new creative cycle. You'll hold your unique piece in that 3333 on the clock, coming in as a power number for you. Once I arrived at this piece, okay, and all these different aspects came tumbling in, the next thing that came in for me was to draw a card for you, to get you a plant ally to guide you on the path, because I think it's so helpful to work with that energy of the plant allies. You know, they're so connected, right, to the earth, and at the same time they carry such medicine. They can reveal different layers to us that are not normally accessible. They bring certain medicines, and there was so much coming through about origin story, and that made me think of like getting down to the roots. So I pulled a card for you at random, and I got this, Dragon's Blood. And I kind of laughed when I pulled out Dragon's Blood. You see, because I was so drawn to not use the arcane BS deck with you all. I felt drawn to use the Dragon's Tarot for doing the individual sign reads for you. So that right there was like, whoa, okay, very interesting. But I also randomly put it in a page of this book with Jim Morrison's collected works. And this is what came through. So I feel like this is a bit of something you're trying to resolve or something you're trying to solve here. By the time you make it through this initiation, you'll be to the other side of this. Whatever this is that has caused this sense of confusion or this feeling of being exiled. I bring in the sense of being exiled because when I think of stoned, immaculate, I mean, certainly we can think of getting stoned, you know, we can think of the herb, you know, we can think of ways that we can kind of just use stuff to numb out. Or in some cases, you know, it doesn't numb you out. For those of you who do partake of cannabis, you find that it opens you up to greater levels of expansion, right? It helps you let down maybe some of those more neat, tidy, you know, reined in places within yourself that give a certain presentation, and allows you to get to that more wild, explorative, feral side of your nature that's wanting to come through now. But it also made me think of, you know, stoning in the kind of like archaic sense of the way somebody can be punished, you know, in judgment. That's how we got that saying, you know, throwing stones, you know. Throwing stones is sort of evocative of that energy, you know, stoning someone, putting an end to someone because of our judgments around what they've done, right? So again, these themes playing out here. I mean, especially with Pisces, it is the house of karma. It is the house of hidden enemies. The 12th house deals with all that action. So I feel like these kind of themes are coming through. And there's a lot of this sense of what's being mirrored at one, you know, projected at one and received by another is also what they're transmitting to the other. So it's like there's something within the struggle, right? The frisson point, there's actually a point of connection that is not able to be understood at this time. And it says right here, these days are coming to an end. So there's a delineation point coming in here. And after that, it says, I am troubled immeasurably by your eyes. Just that right there. I am troubled immeasurably by your eyes. And the eyes, right? They're the window of the soul. And the eyes, it makes me think of that devil card, the Capricorn energy coming in. All you see is all there is. And then it made me think of the way we see others, or how we take on the projections of how others see us. I am troubled immeasurably by your eyes. I am struck by the feather of your soft reply. So perhaps somebody in your situation, you expected them to have a certain reaction. You expected them to react with hostility in the face of some kind of injury. And instead, they met it with gentleness. They met it with grace. They met it with yielding. They met it with allowing. And that carried more weight than the hardest blow, than any stone thrown could ever do. The sound of glass speaks quick disdain, right? It's the glass shattering, the illusion shattering, seeing through something that was seen in a certain way that actually reveals something more about ourselves, who we are, in the way we viewed something, and conceals what your eyes fight to explain. And that's the mystery. That's the mystery. That's the mystery that won't be reclaimed until there's the recovery of the origin story, right? Very, very interesting. See what your eyes fight to explain. How can you explain what you don't have words for? How can you explain what you don't have words for? This is something that will be learned, right? So let me get into this dragon's blood, right? Dragon's blood is coming in with the number 51 here. 51 here. Mirroring energy, if you think of it, if you look at it in reverse, if you were looking at it in reverse, it would be 15. That is that devil card. Okay, so it's a little bit of tricky energy there. There's some kind of knowledge that's activating here. There's some kind of intuition that's activating here. And this intuition provides an activation point for the anima mundi. What is the anima mundi? The anima mundi is basically the activation of knowledge of the world soul. And it's this perspective that the world itself, all of those elementals that have come together to make up the world that we live in, it has a soul too. It has emotions, it has thoughts, it has feelings, it has a consciousness. And so this is something that is provided, this certain vision, this certain sight. So what you can't explain right now, what you don't have words for, will be arrived at through activation of the anima mundi. The anima mundi brings in that quality of unification. And I do feel like as you're entering into this gateway of initiation, you are actually coming into a place where it's giving a link of telepathic communication with the anima mundi. Okay. It's pretty potent energy coming through for you, I have to say. And there's other aspects that you can think of being activated when we look at the anima mundi. We also think of the conjuncto. And the conjuncto is like the sacred marriage. It's when the two parts of ourselves, the masculine, feminine principle, the frisson that is created imbalance between man and spirit, okay? That divide is bridged, and there's the alchemy where they come into union with each other within the self. And then there's this point of, at that time, activating that singer of unity, right? That Orin Moore is able to come through and awaken within us through that singer of unity, which enters us into the flow of ecstasis. What is ecstasis? It is that one great note that ripples through all of creation, and it is the activation of that creative power and that vision. Also, the anima mundi is being able to have just like that direct link, being able to really tap into that world soul. It's being able to be at that point where there isn't any division between the world soul and oneself. There's a recognition that what is the world soul is also part of me and part of everything I encounter in this experience. It's furthermore the activation of occult wisdom. So we already know that you're retracing your origin story and that you're reclaiming your magics. Your magics, that which existed beyond humans ever even coming into form. That's what we're reclaiming here, 44:33 on the clock. You see, to have a building block for the future, we first have to take a step back before we have something to move forward with. 44:44 on the clock. Also the piece of universal bloodline coming through, universal blood donor. So a lot coming through that type O bloodline, which is the indigenous bloodline. And this made me think of a certain story that comes through an indigenous bloodline of the Cherokee, which is about the Moon-Eyed people, that they are the true indigenous people. They were known to be quite nocturnal. They would only come out at night. And they were also very reclusive. And they were known to spend their time in the forests. So there might be something there about really connecting. I mean, certainly dragon's blood. It's a tree. I mean, it's the sap of the tree. And that sap of the tree can be used in many different ways. It can be used as a way to be a salve to wounds, to help them heal. It can stop bleeding. It can stop the loss of the blood. It can stop the loss of life, right? It also can be used to build energy in spell work. And additionally, it's known for protection and consecration. So all of these energies coming in here as sources of empowerment. This dragon's blood here is associated with Black Moon Lilith and Pluto. So while it may appear, okay, that the initiatory gateway is being presented by Cancer, and I find this really interesting, going back to the cards we opened up with here. It's like all of the mythos of the great mystery and the empowerment of the priestess and the romance of the moon. All of this is always attributed to Pisces, to Cancer. Let's see, riddle me this, right? In order to move forward, riddle me this. What's been left out? Scorpio. And I feel like that is the true initiation that's coming through here. It's coming through Scorpio. It's coming through that archetype of Lilith. Lilith was exiled. Lilith had to wander on her own through the darkness, no hospitable home, and had to find her way to her own empowerment. Through what? Through doing a little bit of that dance with the devil, through the trickery of the villainization that was cast upon her, through stepping into her power. And a lot of times, Scorpio is not recognized as such. There's a lot of villainization of the Scorpio archetype. We hear it all the time. And yet, I feel like this is the rebirth of reclaiming the empowerment of the 8th house. So, water signs, because we know water signs, ultimately, the water sign archetype, the elemental, and the waterway that is the way through that comes in with the Cancer moon is arrived at through the activation and the reclaiming of the origin story of the High Priestess. And we each have a piece to hold in this. It's not knowledge that is reserved to one. It's knowledge that is part of the Oran Mor, the great song that is awakening in all of us now. And so this is a really potent piece here. Black Moon Lilith and Pluto, all right? And Pluto is in Aquarius. That ties in the air. That ties in the collective. We have Earth come in too, right? And the fire of transformation, it all leads back to the Sagittarian energy as well. So this is really about the process of alchemy, the transformation before we can get to that star, which is the North Node activation and the hope that can only come to being on planet Earth when we sing that great song of mystery of the Oran Moor into creation through discovering the note that's meant to be sounded through us. So the way through, all right, this initiation is to work with your Black Moon Lilith energy, to work with your Pluto placement. So look where you have Pluto in your chart. What sign is it in? What house is it in? Look at your Black Moon Lilith. What sign is it in? What house is it in? This is unique to each of you. It provides you with a clue that is a gateway of initiation into this mystery. Now, all those pieces I brought in are about the creative cycle, but I do want to touch upon the destructive cycle so you know how to sort of find when you're moving more into the darkness, when you're sort of like wandering off into the alfalfa, the destructive aspect of this initiatory gateway, or when you get lost along the way, comes through malevolent magic. It comes through feelings of overwhelm. It comes through the frisson of the soul, where it puts us in a state of inner conflict and able to come to that place of unity within ourselves. And it's to have blocked spiritual sight. 51:33 on the clock. And yes, 6:33, 6, 6, 6, 12. Do you see? This is what we need to resolve karmically. There's the reclaiming of the vision that encompasses all. It's really potent, powerful message. So yes, work with dragon's blood. It's something that will be very empowering for you. And there's a lot you can learn from dragon's blood, as well as traveling with your particular tarot archetype. So I do encourage you to learn everything you can about dragon's blood. That in and of itself will be an initiation. But I do want to, at this point, bring in the Dragon Tarot and shuffle these cards and get some individual messages for each of the water sign zodiac archetypes. And let me go ahead and just put Jim over here for a moment so I can have the space to do this, and you can watch me doing the shuffling. Bottom of the deck energy. Oh, I love it. What are we going to reclaim? We're going to reclaim that sun. We're not going to waste the dawn. And it is that sun, right, that's hiding behind the moon. What's cloaked? What we can't currently see. See, we entered this process already with that black moon that we had in Capricorn. And that portal is presented with the full moon in Cancer, right, on January 13th. And then it leads to the sun when we break on through to the other side. So very interesting message coming through here, right? It promises fulfillment. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but it can't be found until we enter that place of total darkness so that we can reclaim our origin story. And I do encourage you as well, especially if you have indigenous bloodline, to trace the roots of that particular story that comes from Comanche. Oh, I went to say Comanche legend. Interesting. I meant to say Cherokee legend, although you will find, I have to say, if you look across the indigenous tribes that are here in America, you will find that there is talk amongst all tribes, like the Star people. There's also different types of fairy that are referred to. All right, so there's something here. There's something here to be discovered, and we all come from the stars. All right, so there is this piece. When you think of indigenous, think of it even further back here, okay? Think of it even further back, the source of coming from the stars, coming from the cosmos, coming from the ether, bringing a little bit of that ether down to earth. But there's something about, for those of you who have indigenous bloodlines, those of you type O bloodlines, there's something about maybe researching that legend of the Cherokee with the moon-eyed people. It might reveal something to you of significance, something for you to trace. Okay, let's go ahead and do this and get these messages coming in for Water Sign Collective. All right, so this first cut that I'm going to make here is going to be for Pisces. And the center cut we're going to do for Cancer. The first will be for Scorpio, okay? So Scorpio, we have, ooh, I like it, 9 of Pentacles. Yes. This is so much transformation already coming through. You see, the song is already being activated within you here with that cardinal medicine coming in there. That is something that is awakening within you, gifts that are awakening within you that come from your bloodline, that come from your origins. There's a lot of growth here. There's alchemy that's already taking place. And this alchemy is not just happening on a spiritual level. It also reclaims a certain treasure that is yours to inherit here on earth. There's a lot of growth coming in here. There's a lot of transformation, and there's coming into your true power. We look at 9 of Pentacles. It is that pre-empress, pre-emperor energy. So this is the point of rising from the slumber. It is coming up from that time that has been spent in the underworld as that archetype of Persephone, and rising up into the spring where it takes on the energy of core and everything comes to fruition, everything grows, there's abundance here. So certainly I think materially you're coming into a lot of advancement here, but there's also a lot of spiritual transformation that's happening here. There's a lot of growth that you're experiencing here. And I do feel you're connecting with your bloodline. I do feel like you're really connecting with your ancestors too. There's a lot of wealth that comes through tapping your bloodline, right? Something to be gained here. Something to be gained here of great beauty. Also, something about feeling a healthy sense of pride around your bloodline, because there's so many strengths and empowerments that want to come through you, through the wisdom of that line. If you trace it, you have to trace it though. So I do see you maybe digging deeply into your family tree and finding a real source of richness. And also there's something coming through you at this time that's a bit of legacy energy that's meant to be expressed through you. It can only come through you. What do we got here on the top of the deck? Queen of Pentacles. Yes, do you see? Beautiful energy here. Really beautiful energy here. There's so many new beginnings that you're going to be nurturing as a result of this Ace of Pentacles that you're going to activate in the spring. It really is the dawning of a new era for you. And there's a lot of fertility that comes through this. And the fertility that comes through is through you facing your fears with that rabbit medicine there. So I do see you making it through this initiatory gateway. There's a lot of growth here. There's a lot of new beginnings coming in. And I do feel like you're really nurturing these new beginnings and you're warding them. What are you warding them from? You're warding them from your fears of really stepping into the energy of what it's going to take for you to actually invest in that Ace of Pentacles, right? To plant that seed of intention. Let me go ahead and see what comes through here with the cut of the deck. Ace of Swords. So you are going to be able to arrive at your truth and enact this new beginning in your life. You're recovering your origin story. Some of you writing may have something to do with this. As you reclaim your origin story, it may come through you creatively in the form of a story that's meant to be shared. It could be a story that is a bit of a saga, I have to say. There may be volumes you have to share that come through this. And with this, we have the Knight of Pentacles. So absolutely, there's something you're investing in here that is part of your destiny. It is your North Node activation. And it's a truth that you arrive at. Some of you have a very important message you need to share. It may be coming through something you share through your writing or something you share through your voice. But this is going to awaken within you. You may have already started to tap into this energy a little bit. You may have already gotten a vision of this that's been coming in for you since winter solstice came through, because that is a winter timing card. Whatever this is, I do see you following through with it, and it'll lead to a lot of growth, not just mentally, emotionally, spiritually, but also in your material reality. You're going to see a lot of advancement as a result. And it does have the seeds of what could be a legacy energy, something that outlives your lifespan that you leave behind. So this is quite an opportunity to create transformation, not only in your own life, but in the life of others, okay? All right, Cancer, let's see what we have here. Ooh, we have the Six of Wands. What a way to start out. So yes, this is you taking back your power. I love this. You're stepping through and you're finding your way through the dark and you're reclaiming the light here. So this is you actually moving into action. I feel like you're not afraid of the dark. You're already generating enough light within you to see through the darkness, to see through the shadow. You're taking what's been subconscious and you're bringing it up to the light. And the more that you do this, the more you're sort of shedding the shackles of fear, and you're shedding the projections of stories that others put on you, the judgments that others put on you. And as a result, you're feeling more empowered. You're feeling your fire come forward. You're feeling lit up. You have a sense of purpose. You have a sense of determination. And you're ready to go right into the center of that initiation. And I do see you arriving at a place of utter transformation. I just heard what was fallen will rise. So you may have felt at one point that you were the fallen and now you're rising. There's a triumph over something that held you back in the past. This is a really beautiful energy. Ooh, yes, look at this. And instead, you're catching up that devil. You're catching up the things that once had you bound. It's like a trading places energy. You're tricking the trickster. There's a part of yourself that is fighting off what you alone bound yourself to through your own fear. You're transmuting this. And as a result of that, you're finding your sense of freedom and liberation. It's going to change your view. It's going to change what you see in the world around you. This is a strong message. Let's do a cut of the deck here. And what do we got? You have an Ace of Pentacles too, and you're putting it to good use. So you're ready to plant this seed. I see you also transmuting this energy. And what are you going to do with this? Oh, well, you are going to weave so much magic into the world. This is North Node activation. This is transformation through fire, through the fire test of truth. You experience that liberation that comes through that phoenix rising energy. You do receive some gold, the gold of the Tuatha De Danann. It can be tricky to obtain this gold, I have to say. But if one is able to be in that space of immaculate, free from fault, free from error, free from mistakes, understanding that I'm pure. There can be that place of transmutation where you are so tapped into the aura and more, where you are tapped into that world soul, where you recognize that there is no division, there is no separation. I feel like there's a lot of jewels of wisdom coming through for you, and you're entering a lucky cycle here where you're using your magics to weave a new way into being. And whatever you're weaving into being here, you're taking your time with it. There's longevity in it. You're playing the long game, and you have the eye of the tiger, the thrill of the fight. And you're not feeling any fear or trepidation in standing up to face off with your rivals, because you recognize that the rival is actually the liberator. They are the ones that help you find the way through. You have so many options opening up for you. It's really beautiful. And what I love about this particular Seven of Cups card is nothing's concealed here. It's very clear what each cup offers you. And that's because you've made it through the darkness, you've made it through the illusion, and you now have that creative power of the fire in your hand to weave the new way into being. Beautiful energy there. I love it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn that up there. Pisces. Look at you in your energy. I feel like you are reclaiming your origins, and there's something about reclaiming your origins from the ether. So you are going to directly connect with this energy. That is your sort of Ace of Cups, so to speak. It's a bit of the musing energy. It's divine inspiration being drawn down from the ether. And I say that because there's a dragon in this cup, and dragon is associated with the ether. It is where they reside, and they're guardians of the earth. But certainly when we look through that lens, we have to look through the lens of the collective and humanitarianism. And this is the charge of the 12th house of Pisces. So I feel like there's something you're reclaiming here in regard to your origin story, and you're drawing it down through this musing energy that awakens some initiation of creative energy that brings you a deep healing. It's like reclaiming a sense of belonging in the world, understanding the unique piece that you hold in that, the thread that you have to weave in that cosmic web of creation. Really beautiful. And through the awakening of your gifts, and with that, we have Knight of Swords. So see, this is beautiful because you're finding yourself at the point of cause rather than effect. There may be sort of this chaotic energy looping around you. We got the Knight of Swords here. So there's this very fast moving energy, right? I feel like this is an energy you're entering into the center of. It radically shifts your landscape. It may really sort of clear the landscape too on its way. It may seem like a storm, and yet you understand the use of the storm. And so you're able to be very calm in the center of it. And the way you're able to be so calm in the center of it, the storm itself actually becomes a vehicle for you that carries you forward. It carries you forward rapidly. It ports. I was getting so many words coming in there at once, like transforms, merging with transports. And it's that kind of energy. It transports you from one place to another, from one state to another. I feel like when you enter into the center of this storm and you're calm and you allow it all to sort of swirl around you, it carries you forward more quickly than you expect. It transforms the entire landscape of your life. Potent, okay? Cut of the deck energy coming in here. And yes, it gives you your strength. It puts you back into your power. And I do feel like a little bit of the magic that you're reclaiming here is you're reclaiming a certain dragon ally that is going to be your protector of your earthly affairs. And in that respect, you're able to put down your sword, you see? You don't need to fight anymore. And with that, again, the initiation of the new cycle, I love how it looped around to the energy that came in for the collective. The moth medicine transforms into the butterfly, and there's the activation of the dawn. How beautiful is that? Queen of Swords energy. So again, the air within the water, this is the balance coming through. This is the judgment being fair, being just, a judgment that works for the collective. It has the butterfly effect. It ripples throughout all of creation. It changes the consciousness. And there's respect. Respect through what was lost. Respect through what came to an end with the lily medicine coming in there. This is activating the North Node. I love it. It's what I see all across the board for all of the individual signs is moving with total acceptance into that waterway and experiencing the transformation that doesn't waste the dawn, but reclaims it. What a message of hope to come on New Year's Eve.